As you know, there are so many factors that go into an asset mix. So when you have a new client sitting in front of you, socially distanced, of course,
Yep.
during these
On
times,
Zoom, yeah.
right, or on Zoom, yeah. So what are the key factors that go into deciding what that individual or family needs in terms of age and risk tolerance and everything else that goes into it?
There's lots, Mark. There's how much they spend, there's how much they have, there's their return expectations. There's also the ability to handle risk. Two different scenarios. You have a client with a large amount of money and they're not spending the income they're currently generating. They have the ability to increase their risk level because they're not dependent on the assets necessarily to provide that income, and they can weather volatility more. So the ups and downs they're not as worried about. If you have a client that comes in that has a smaller asset base and they are dependent on that income and they're living on that income, in some cases eating into capital, those market swings are going to have a pretty pronounced effect. So I would say that you'd almost want to have a lower risk profile there because they're very much more dependent on that income. And if the market were to go down and they were forced to eat into capital, they would be doing so at a much lower level. So you really want to make sure that the client in question, I would say, one, understands the returns from different scenarios, but also the changes in risk from moving, let's say, from 40% in bonds to 30% in bonds, and what the effect that would have on the ups and downs. Because investor sentiment, it really is, it's much harder to understand that when things are lower and when you might want to sell, which is exactly the opposite time. But it's an important conversation to have with the client, and it's important to go down every scenario road because you want to make sure when things aren't going well, you don't have to change the strategy. That's the worst time to do it. So you really want to make sure that the questions are being asked at the right time, and that's when things are calm and when things are good and when new accounts come in.